Alright, so I'm going to be working on this MacBook Pro. This is a late 2013 model A1502, 13-inch. So I don't understand Apple's idea with the naming, because this is 1502, which is a 13-inch model, and their 15-inch model is 1398. So I don't get that, but I don't know, maybe there's some other meaning behind it. Anyways, to disassemble this MacBook, what you want to do is first remove all the Pentalobe 1.2 screws. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so remove all of those. They are somewhat different sizes, shapes, and lengths, so try and keep them in order. They had some of the screws missing, I don't know, so I'm not sure which exactly, but I believe I think it was these two that were slightly shorter. I'm not 100% sure, but when you take it out, just take a look at your screws and make sure. So anyways, this had liquid damage, so I'm going to remove the whole thing, and we'll take out the battery. The battery was causing some problems, and then we will also check the board if there's any liquid residue underneath. So the speakers are also going weird, so we're going to replace that as well. I think it was just the left one. But anyways, for the battery, you want to pop the connector off. Okay, so here's the battery connector. It's underneath this adhesive. So here you can see this thing, it got liquid in it, and the red thing turned red. So to pull this out, it's going to be hard to show this, but this connector is like slightly extended out on this side. So I use my nails and I pull on it here, okay, just like that, to pull the connector out. So what I'm going to do after I disconnect the battery, it's always good to open it up and press and hold the power button for about 10 to 15 seconds just to drain any power. This battery is completely toast, so it's probably not going to do anything holding this power button down, but I'm going to do it anyways. Okay, so to take this whole computer apart, you're going to need a T5 and a T8. So let's go ahead and start removing components. I don't think I need to remove the screen. If you want to see a screen replacement video, I do have screen replacement videos, so you can look for those. But I am going to remove these rubber pieces here. So here you can see this rubber piece came out. And then on this side, there's also some adhesive that goes along. I think somebody probably pulled these out already because they're already kind of coming out really easily. Normally I have to get in between with my screwdriver and then pop up the adhesive, excuse me. Okay, so we're going to take out the battery. This thing should be taped on as well, but I guess either the liquid ruined it or somebody peeled it up already. So we're going to take out the battery screw here. And try and keep all these screws in order because they are different size, shapes, and lengths, and you don't want to get them all mixed up. So one person was saying that they wanted to see how to remove the adhesive here. Because I think last time I kind of pried it all up first because it's kind of a pain to do it, and then recording it is kind of takes a lot of time, but I'll show you on this video. So hopefully if someone asks this time, I can actually send them this video. Basically all the newer models have the batteries held in place with adhesive, so it's kind of annoying to replace them. So this speaker, there's 3 screws here. Just take those 3 screws out, then you can lift the speaker out. This cable is running underneath here, so you do have to kind of guide it around. What I do to get this connector out, let me zoom in. Let's see if I can show you this. So I just get my fingernail and get as close to the connector as I can. All right, and then I kind of just rock it from left to right. So just like that, and that pops it up. As if you can see here on this connector, there's actually a little groove that goes underneath this part of the board. So you can actually use a thin tool to kind of just slide it under there, and it would pop, you'd be able to pop up that connector. But anyways, that's how I remove that. So this speaker, okay, this speaker does have some cracks in it. So when it starts making the rumbling sound, I don't know if I can show you this here, but on the little edge, the lip, if I squeeze it, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a crack in the thing around it. If you don't want to buy new speakers, you can do kind of like a somewhat repair of it, and it won't sound as loud, and then you might make the sound a little more muffled. But what you can do, I'm going to replace the speakers, but what you can do on these, You basically squeeze it, look for where it's cracked. So it's cracked right here. When you squeeze it, you see like a gap is popping up. You can take just a little super glue and then kind of just put it on there. I would use like a toothpick or something so that you don't get too much super glue, but just put it on the little place where it's cracked and then try and like push the pieces together so they stick. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to be replacing these speakers because I don't want to get the customer with lower quality sound. So anyways, but that will fix the rattling problem. So the other speaker is basically the same. The only thing is we have to remove this connector, but there are also just the 3 screws here. So again, you want to keep these screws in order. The ones towards the center are the smallest, and then the other 2 here seem to be very similar, but I don't know. The one here on this corner might be longer than the ones up towards the center of the laptop. Okay, so yeah, just keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to remove this connector here. There's 2 screws on each, holding each side down with a metal plate on top. So just remove the 2 screws here. Okay, just like this. Okay, get the metal plate up. Just like that. We'll do the other side. And this connector comes out kind of like a Lego piece. It just snaps in place. Okay. So I'm just going to put these here. So I'm putting the screws off camera, but they're basically laid out in the pattern that I'm taking them out. That's how I keep track of what screws came from where. Okay. So we'll take that out. All right, so to remove these connectors, I just get my fingernails under on like 2 corners. If you want, you can use plastic pry tools, but I like to use my fingernails so I can feel what I'm actually reaching under. And then you just pop it up like this, okay? So same thing on this side, just go underneath, and then you can kind of wobble it a little bit if it's stuck, and pop it out like that. So the connectors, as you can see, it's like mismatched. So you put this connector with the bigger one, and then you put this other connector with this bigger one on this side. It looks like there's liquid damage on here. I don't know if it's going to be repairable. I'm just going to brush it off with with a toothbrush, and hopefully that will clear out the short that's going on there. It did look like it was working okay. The only problem I noticed was the MacBook was, when I plugged it in, if I shut it down, it actually turned itself back on, which is really weird. So these connectors do look kind of burnt, so I don't know if this is going to fix it. Sometimes what it is there's just some corrosion there, and that small bit of corrosion causes it to cause a short arc between the 2 wires. So what I'm going to do is add a little isopropyl alcohol there, and I'm just going to scrub it and clean it. So the liquid, it actually really isn't a problem with the computers as long as you make sure it's completely dried before turning it back on. If you're wondering where the RAM is and everything, it's these chips here on the board. You got the SSD here, which is replaceable if you need to. I'm going to remove that as well. Again, these are all using T5 screws, so we'll take the SSD out. There's the 1 screw. You can kind of lift it slightly, and then you can kind of wiggle it as you pull it back. All right, just like that. I'm going to clean the dust off of the SSD as well. Okay, so this is going to be a semi-complete disassembly minus the screen. So if you want to see how to do the screen, I have videos for that. I might also have a video doing the keyboard for this model. I don't remember. But a lot of the newer models are the same, and like all the way from 2012 on, they kind of riveted in and stuff. So okay, so you got the trackpad cable here. To remove that, there's a little latch. You just flip it up just like that, and then you can actually wiggle the connector and pull it back. Okay, so just like this. Oh, that looks pretty bad as well. So this thing has a lot of corrosion on it. I'm gonna try and clean and brush that off as well. Okay, it's kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure the trackpad was working okay, so I don't know, it could be it was just pressing stuff. So I'm gonna just use some rubbing alcohol and try and clean off the connector. You don't really want to use the rubbing alcohol on the battery itself. I think it'll actually clean off a coating from it, but the battery's broken and I'm replacing it, so it's, yeah, whatever. but I'm just cleaning off these connectors here, so that way when I put it back it will work okay, hopefully. Alright. I will later clean this up with, usually depending how bad it is, I'll have to clean this up with like running tap water, and then also after I'm finished I'll dry it with an air blower, and then I'll use more rubbing alcohol to clean it off completely. But anyways, you got the keyboard connector here. So this also has some corrosion here. So we're going to clean that off. Flip up the latch just like the trackpad one, okay? And then you can kind of wiggle this connector and pull it back. Come on, there we go. The connector itself looks clean. I mean the cable, but this part had some corrosion here, so that might fix the weird boot looping issue, assuming it's not the keyboard that's fried. Hopefully it's not, because then I'm going to need a lot more parts. But the wireless antennas, just like every other model of laptop that I've been showing, just get underneath the tail, pull it up like that. Okay, underneath the tail, pull it up like that. There we go. Alright, you can move this rubber piece out of the way. There's the webcam or eyesight camera cable here. Let me zoom in actually. So you got that. Sorry, it's wobbling all over the place. But basically, this part has an adhesive under it. Let me get that in camera. So what you want to do is kind of peel that up if you can. You don't want to bend the cable too much. Try and keep it flat if you can while you're peeling it up, okay? And then when you get to this side, just grab it, and then don't just pull it back. What you want to do is kind of wiggle it like this, okay? So you wiggle it left and right as you pull it, and that will walk the connector out of here. If you just yank on it really hard, you can actually break that. So here you can see it came out pretty easily. You just have to keep wiggling it. Okay, just like that. Then we'll move this aside. I will have to use the T8 just to get this piece out of the way. So let's get the T8 screwdriver. And we're just gonna, oops, sorry. I need to zoom out. So I'm gonna use the T8 screwdriver to remove this piece that's holding the wireless antennas down. Okay, that's the only thing I'm gonna use it for. If you need to change the screen, I have a video on that. You'll have to remove the 6 screws here, and then there's 2 little brackets holding it here. But yeah, and if you are changing the screen, make sure you did disconnect the battery and hold down the power button, because if you try and move this cable without doing that, you can fry your screen or the backlight circuit on your computer. All right, so anyways, here's the keyboard backlight connector. You just pop it up just like that. Okay, it disconnects very easily. Let's see, am I missing anything? You got the microphone connector down here, which you just pull this little piece of tape back. Okay, all right, peel that tape up. Try to grab it. There we go. Once you got that peeled up, same thing, there's a little latch here. Flip it up just like the keyboard and the trackpad cables, and then you can use this cable or this piece of tape to kind of wiggle it and pull it back. If it doesn't come out, sometimes it's kind of difficult to pull it out using that. So what I like to do is use a needle that I kind of put a bend in it like this. I don't know if you can see it, but basically I'll get the needle underneath, and then I'll put it so that the point isn't pulling on the thing at all. If you're doing this, be careful with the battery, okay? Or you can use a plastic tool, and then kind of just wiggle and pull it back just like that, okay? So there we go. Set that aside. Let's see, what else do we got to remove? The wireless card I'll leave on there. Or actually, maybe I'll take it out just to see if there's any corrosion underneath. So I'll switch back to the T5. Okay, oops, sorry, I'm going off the camera again. Maybe I should just leave it zoomed out, but then I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing clearly. Okay, so I'll take out that screw. Sorry if it's wobbling around. All right, and then the wireless card, I just get underneath with my fingernails and pull it up like that slightly. Once you get it slightly lifted up, just grab it, wiggle and pull, just like that, okay? So there is dust under here, but I don't see any liquid damage. I am gonna just brush it off with the toothbrush to get the dust off. Okay. Right, so we got the wireless card out. Some people are probably panicking that I'm like touching it like this, but I mean, you can do this. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you have yourself grounded so that it doesn't cause static to destroy it. Okay. So the problem isn't the pins, the problem is all the little circuits on here that you can damage. So yeah, usually the pins aren't going to be damaged from the little static, it's the internal components. Okay, so we got that. All right, then we're going to want to remove all of these screws. Is this also... Okay, I forgot they changed this one. So on this model, you do have to use a PH0 to remove the little screw holding this heatsink fan thing in place. Okay, so use that PH0. Switch back to the T5 because pretty much everything else is using the T5. There's one screw here on the fan. Okay, take that one out as well. There's another screw down here on this board. Take that out as well. Okay, then there's another screw for the fan here. Move that one. Technically you can leave the fan on this whole thing and lift it out, but I'm going to take the whole fan out, so let's take this screw out as well. Okay, we're going to disconnect the fan, so there's the little latch just like on the keyboard and the trackpad. Once you lift that out, there's this raised bit here, and to remove the connector, I kind of use that raised bit to kind of push on it, and then you can lift the thing out just like that. Okay, so there you go. Oops, it's kind of pushing itself back in. So just pull it back out like this. There we go. And the fan is caught underneath, sorry, I need to zoom back out again. The fan is caught underneath the heatsink there, so you won't be able to take out the fan until you lift or take all these screws out to lift it out. Okay, so take out that screw from the board. There's another screw down here. Should I do something weird? Let's see here. So you got that screw, that screw, that screw. Okay, we got that one. Oops, that's supposed to be there. Sorry, I'm lining up the screws so I can tell where I got them from. Alright. Alright, then there's another screw up here. And there's a screw down here. Okay. Alright, then we got one screw up in this corner here. We can remove the LCD connector. Just flip this up. Some people ask me, like, do I have to remove this to remove this or to remove the other things? The only thing you need to remove first before anything is the battery, and then press and hold the power button. Then you can remove whatever order you want. It doesn't matter. So as long as you can get it out, if there's something blocking it, then of course you have to remove that first. Okay, so then you got the charge port connector here if you need to replace your MagSafe charger port. There's two screws holding this in place. I think this design was one of the nicer ones where you can actually remove the charge port without taking everything completely apart. Let me double check. So we got that. Let's move these screws out of my way. Okay, so here the only thing is you have this rubber thing here, so just make sure if you take it out, put it back. Okay, and then the charge port just had those two screws. Then you can actually pull this back and then lift this up. Okay, then this has a little adhesive underneath it, and then to remove this connector, just hold the cable close to the connector, and then just like the other cables, you just wiggle it as you pull it out. Don't just yank it out. Okay, just like that. There you go, we got the charge port out. I'm going to clean the dust off of this a little bit. Okay. Alright, clean that up. Alright, I think we got all the connectors disconnected except for this side. So now that we got all of these things out, we're going to remove this. So there's the other speaker connector I was talking about. So same thing. You want to kind of lift the cable up. There's some adhesive underneath it, so you kind of have to pull that up. And then get underneath as close to the connector as you can, and then just pop it up, alright? Usually you do this with all the screws holding the board down, but yeah, it doesn't matter as long as you can get it up. Okay, just like that. Is it coming up or is it lifting the whole? Okay, make sure you're not lifting the whole connector off the board. So it is coming out, and then I go around like this, and then just pop that off, okay? So this also has an adhesive holding this cable in here, so make sure peel that up slowly. Okay. And then once you get that, you can actually lift the speaker out. I just go underneath this part and then I kind of pull it up from here. Okay. Again, there's no particular order you need to do this stuff other than the battery. So if you're wondering, yes, you can take out the speakers without taking out all the other stuff that I took out. Okay. So let's see if this speaker looks good, or is it also bad? This speaker is most likely okay. If I push on it, there's no cracks forming. So I remember when I was working on it, I heard like messed up sound only from one side. So yeah. All right. And then people tried to put rice in here. So don't put rice in your computer if you get liquid. If you want to use rice to kind of help pull the moisture out, put your computer inside like a pillowcase or something breathable, and then put that pillowcase in the rice. Don't let the rice actually touch the computer because it will get in all these gaps. Once rice absorbs water, it'll turn very brittle. So you don't want to leave wet rice in your computer. It will all turn very brittle and start like breaking up when you try and get it out. Okay? All right, so we got all of that out. All right, so this connector, it's like a squeeze connector. These two things, let me see if I can zoom in and show this. So these two pieces on the sides are like squeeze. You have to squeeze them to pull it out. So just squeeze it like that and then pull it back. All right, so we're gonna zoom back out. Oh, you don't need to see my legs. All right, there we go. So now that we got everything disconnected, we should be able to lift these pieces out. So the heatsink here, you can lift it here. You don't want to put too much force because you don't want to bend the heatsink. But anyways, now you can lift this whole thing up. Again, as I was saying, you can actually leave the screw for the fan there. But yeah, I'm going to separate the fan here like this. Check if there's any liquid. It looks okay. I'm just going to clean the dust out of it for now. Okay, I'm doing this off camera, but I'm just using a toothbrush to clean it. And then I have this little thing that I squeeze to blow air at it. Okay. Just to clean it up a little bit. All right, we'll set the fan aside. Okay, now we can actually lift the whole motherboard out of the computer just like this. Be careful with any connectors that are around the sides. Excuse me. And it doesn't look like there's water underneath, so I'm gonna just clean off the board from clean the dust off. Okay. And I don't really see any liquid damage on the board itself, so I think we're okay as far as that part of the board, the bottom side of the board. Okay, so I cleaned off the bottom side of the board. I don't see any liquid here. I think we're okay. The only problem I see, I mean, let me see. I might have to take this little cover off. So I'm going to clean more of this dust off. It looks like it's mostly dust, except for that one connector that I was talking about earlier. So I'm just going to clean all the dust off. Sorry, I'm doing it off camera, but hopefully you know what you get the idea. I'm just brushing it all over the trash can to get it out. This rubber piece comes off, so just make sure to put it back when you're done because this helps with the airflow. I'll show you that when I'm done. All right, so we got most of that. As you can, I don't know if you can see here, but I see some corrosion there. Hopefully after brushing it, it's okay. The keyboard did work okay, if I remember correctly. But it did keep turning itself on, so that could be because of the corrosion here. All right, so I'm going to clean this one as well. If you want, you can actually peel off all these red stickers, and then people won't know that liquid spilled on it, but they'll wonder why there's no liquid stickers on there. And then I think, oh yeah, so here, I don't know if you can see it, but some of these pins are like darkened, so they got like burnt. But hopefully they'll be okay. It doesn't look completely toast off the thing, so hopefully after cleaning that up it should be okay. But again, we're going to be replacing the the battery and also the speakers on this model. Okay, so I'm gonna just scrape off this at least a little bit, just so I don't have to stare at those little red dots. If you want, you can clean it off completely with like rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. It is a little bit difficult to get this sticky residue off, but it's doable. Just kind of have to work it. Alright, but I'm just going to leave it there because it's not really a big deal. Okay. Alright, there we go. But yeah, you can use like a paper cloth, and then you can use isopropyl alcohol. Right now I'm just rubbing it with paper, and here you can see the paper actually all sticks to that, and then you can kind of scrape it up if you want. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, but the really fine residue that will be stuck on it, you'd have to use like isopropyl alcohol. But it's not, again, you don't need to clean this off. It's not like these computers are even in warranty or anything, but I like to just remove those anyways. Alright, so we'll clean that off. Just like that. Sorry if I'm going off the camera. Alright, clean that up. There's one down there on the trackpad. Hopefully the trackpad's okay. I can't really get in there. This trackpad, you do have to remove the battery to get it out. Let me see. Let me see if I'll have to remove it. I'm going to set the logic board aside. You want to set this down somewhere on an anti-static mat or bag or somewhere that's not going to cause any issues. You can put it on like cardboard or something. But yeah, I'm going to set this down. Also, a wood table works. I'll set this down on the metal cover itself that has the black plastic stuff. Alright, then you got this. There is a T8 screw holding this small board in place. So we do need to remove that as well. Okay. Alright, remove that. Oh, I'm getting like an alarm thing on something. Okay. There we go. Alright, so after you remove that screw, you can actually take this whole board out, just like this, lift it and pull it out of the way. I don't see any liquid again on this side, I just see dust. I'm going to clean it off. Okay. So hopefully the keyboard itself is okay, and the trackpad. We are going to replace the battery and the speakers. Okay, so I'm just cleaning the dust off of this for now because everything else looks okay. Oh, that's one thing I forgot. Let me set that aside. I'm going to clean the dust out of here as well. If you do this, be very careful with the cables, okay? Alright, so that's one thing I forgot to show on this board. So you can actually remove this metal plate. I don't know if I'll be able to show it. I just used my nail. You can use like pry tools or something. But this top piece, you can see there's little dots around the side, and that holds it in place, okay? So you can actually pry this out. Let me see here. Oh wow, why is it stuck so strong on here? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna pry this. Come on. It doesn't want to pry up, so maybe I'll just leave it be. I don't think there's any liquid damage here, but I usually like to check underneath just to be safe, but I don't know why it's not coming out. I don't want to risk damaging the board. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there we go. I lifted it. I pried that up. So you just go all the way around, prying up this piece. Okay. Just like that. You do want to be careful with these other components around it. You don't want to accidentally pry those out. Okay. So it might be tricky here because there's not much work area for that. I'm going to clean the SD or the SSD slot. It was kind of dusty. Alright, so I got the T portion up, but the center one, I don't know why it doesn't want to come out. So I might have to use like a little needle or something here, but let me see if I can pry this up as well. Oh, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Looks okay. I don't see any liquid or anything in there. I'm just going to brush it out anyways. get any dust out. Okay, once you get all of that, you can just put this thing back on top and press it back down, okay? Just like that, just snaps in place. All right, and that's all. I'm gonna set this aside for now. There's so much dust caught in the fins of this fan, but it won't come out, so we're just gonna leave it be. Okay. All right. All right, there we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna show how to remove the battery. So the battery is pretty difficult. You need like a thin pry tool. Okay. So let me move this out of the way. My cat's walking around here. Okay, so you got this here. And then what you want to do is just go underneath, and then you got to actually scrape under this, okay? So just like this, you want to cut the adhesive that's underneath the batteries. Okay, just like this. So I don't know why someone needed to physically see me cutting the tape, but that's basically all you do. Then the packet comes up. You do this with all of them, okay? Just scrape underneath, just like this, okay? So if you're just doing the battery, you don't need to remove the whole motherboard and everything. You can actually get the battery out separately, just like this. All right, so the tool I have is really good for this. Some people don't have, I mean, it's hard to get a tool like this. You can use like a smaller or a different spatula. I also use this frosting one, but it has to be really thin. And this one, actually, I bent it a little bit. That was actually on accident. But it's bent a little bit, so when I slide it, it's actually curved down like this. You don't want to like do it this way, because then it will scrape all underneath the battery. So that the little bend that I put in it, actually on accident, it actually helps with keeping the battery from getting punctured and then like starting a fire. But anyways, just go underneath the whole thing just like this. Okay. Some people said they pour like rubbing alcohol in here, but I mean it does help release the adhesive, but I don't like pouring liquid in a working computer. So you can cause more problems with that. Even though isopropyl alcohol wouldn't damage the computer, but if it dissolves the stuff that's in the adhesive and other things around it, the dirt, it can actually cause some problems. So I try and avoid doing that if I can. Right, so we got these two packs here out as well. Now you want to go underneath. For this part, oops, sorry, you can't see, but for this part, you actually have to go slightly up because the trackpad area is raised. And then you can actually go underneath and pry this out as well. Okay, so this side is a little tricky. Usually what I do is I use my desk and I kind of put it at an angle and then rest this like in my lap or on my stomach, and then I'll use that to help me push the tool through. So just like this. Okay, all right, and then you get the idea. But basically I do this all the way underneath all the packs of this until it's removed. You do have to be careful up here because there's the keyboard and trackpad cables. And if you insert the tool too far that way, you can actually damage them. So just be careful with that, okay? So we're going to slide the tool here. And as you can see, I put this little pack down so I don't have to worry about it getting in the way of my hand. If I use the longer tool, then it's not a problem, but yeah. I like using this shorter one. It's a little bit easier to maneuver. Okay, so just like that. All right, I'm gonna flip it over, work on the other side. Same thing. I've had some customers that actually attempted this. I don't know what they used, but then they punctured the battery and it caught fire, and they brought me like with like a few cells missing, with like these little packets missing because it caught fire. But it could be also they didn't puncture it and they just damaged the cabling down here. Sorry, it's probably not in view, but Hopefully you get the idea. Okay, and then the other painful part with removing these batteries is you have to get the rest of the adhesive out. Sorry if my head's getting in the way. Okay, so there we go. So now we got most of the battery up. So what you can do, you can flip this and then you can kind of lift the battery up from this side and then you can go this way. But again, you want to be careful because if you insert the tool too far, you can actually damage the, make sure you're getting on top of the metal plate. I'll show you what I mean when I finish removing it. Okay, I like to, after I got enough experience to know how to do this, it's easy to go from this side because then I can use my hand as a guide to not put the tool too far. So I'll show you once I get this battery out. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm gonna pull the battery out now. So here you go, you can see all the adhesive. I'm gonna toss this aside. All right, so as I was saying, when you go underneath this way, you want to make sure to go on top of this dark gray piece, and then that way you scrape underneath the adhesive this way, okay? And then you have to be careful not to push the tool too far or you can damage the cables here, okay? And if you want to change the trackpad, I guess I'll partially show how, but there's this metal plate, you have to lift it out. Let me see if this adhesive is going to be easier or not. Oh, this adhesive's going to be a pain. I'm going to actually just scrape it all out. So this kind of adhesive, some of them it's like designed where you can peel it, but this kind, if you try and peel it, I think, let me see actually. Okay, this one actually peels. So some of them, if you try and peel it, it actually just crumbles. This one actually, it semi holds together, so it's not super terrible. And that kind is a huge pain to remove. This one you can kind of lift up a small piece and then you can peel up the rest. There's still little bits of rice in here. All right. And this you don't have to get completely perfect. The other but you do have to peel up at least some of it, so that way the adhesive for the new battery can actually have somewhere to stick down to, because it won't be able to stick down to that foam. Okay, anyways, let me show the trackpad. So the trackpad, this metal plate, you can get underneath. I use my pry tool to kind of lift it slightly. And then as you lift it, you can actually get the tool further underneath here. And then there's actually an adhesive holding it. So you get underneath, you can actually peel this area here. So I got this whole metal plate up. And then once you get that up, you can kind of pull on it very slowly. Okay. You want to try and keep it as flat as you can, but you can peel this up, okay? Just like this. And you want to try and keep it flat because if you bend this, it's going to be difficult to bend it back, but just like this, okay? All right. There we go. You can bend it a little, just don't crease the metal plate because you can kind of fold it like a card to help bend it back. Just like that. Okay, so here you can see this plate is like curved right now, so you can actually just curve it back like this. Okay, so as long as you don't crease it, you should be okay. So there we go. And here you can see the adhesive that's underneath. And then to remove the trackpad, there's the 4 screws here. I don't remember if you need to remove all 4. I think you just need to remove the 2 closer to this side. So, and then you can actually pull the trackpad down through the front. You just have to open the screen and let it drop through. But anyways, that's how you remove that. So I'm going to put this back now. And if you're wondering how this thing lines up, so there's this little cutout circle here on the side where it's kind of like my fingernail like that. Okay. So this bottom piece meets at the top of that cutout there. So you don't actually cover those cutouts. Okay. So we'll put it up like this. Okay, just like that, and then we'll drop it back down in place. Okay, just like that. And then also this piece, it kind of lines up flush with the little raised part there. Okay, so we'll just push that back down. All right, so now we're just going to remove this adhesive, and then we're basically going to reassemble the whole thing. But that's pretty much all there is to this. You don't really have to watch the whole video if you're going to try and reassemble it. It's basically just the reverse of how we took it out. But some people, they can't imagine that in their heads, so they kind of have to see this. So if that's you, or if you just enjoy watching my videos, you can, just enjoy. I'm going to scrape all this adhesive off, or try and peel it up if I can, but most of it keeps tearing, so I might have to just scrape it all. Yeah, I don't like scraping it because it leaves behind some residue. So if you can peel it, that's the better option. Okay, just like that. There we go. It is peeling now. Nice. It's also easier to peel it if it can. So. Okay. So just peeling up all this adhesive. Alright, there we go. And then we got these. Usually the stuff that's stuck to this metal plate is more difficult to remove, so let's see if it's gonna peel. Okay, it's peeling somewhat. There we go. That came out kind of nice actually. Okay. Make sure you don't damage the trackpad or keyboard cable. If you damage those, then you're going to have a tough time. Sometimes, a lot of times people actually just replace the whole trackpad keyboard assembly instead of replacing the battery, just because this adhesive is such a pain. Apple actually doesn't even replace just the battery. They replace the whole keyboard assembly. I don't know why. I think maybe it's easier to train people, or I guess it's easier to avoid causing some permanent damage doing this than doing this way. Because you can see what a pain removing all this adhesive is. I would have thought Apple had like a special way to do this, but I guess not. I think they just send all these broken ones to China or something, and then China handles it or deals with it. Okay. To be careful, I have all the junk all over my desk, so to be careful not to accidentally knock the screws out. Alright. Go. Just remove all this. Okay. Alright, let's get this piece out. Be careful with that trackpad cable. And this is a slow and tedious process. Okay. Okay. Almost there. Alright, let's get this side out. When you peel this stuff out, pulling it slower usually helps it stay intact better. So, but as you scrape it out to remove the battery, if it like gets torn up like this, it makes it really difficult. So it ends up all tearing like this. Alright, so there we go. Almost done. Alright, let's get these last 2 packs on this side. Hopefully this one will peel out easily. Nope, come on, please. There we go. Alright, so you just peel this slowly. There you go, this one's actually coming out nicely. Please don't tear. Okay. Alright, peel this up. Come on, slowly. Alright, this stuff I think I'm gonna have to just scrape it out. It's kind of... Okay. Peel this up. Done. Alright, we're almost there, and then we begin the reassembly process. The only hard part about reassembling this is all the cables sticking up. You kind of have to make sure that they're on top of the motherboard, so when you put them back in, that you can reach them and plug them in. If you accidentally trap some of them under the board, then you're gonna have to take it all back out to be able to get the cable out. So that's the main thing to watch for. Alright, so we got all this adhesive out. The battery I put back last, so because as I was saying, you can actually put the battery without taking out all the other stuff. Alright, so anyways, we're gonna get the motherboard and we're gonna put it back. So first, what we do excuse me, is we'll put back this piece, okay? So usually I think there's supposed to be a rubber piece here, but it's missing, so somebody must have taken this apart and lost it. But anyways, you put it at an angle like this because you want these metal pieces on these ports to go underneath this this part of metal that sticks out. Okay, so we're gonna get that. We're gonna have to use the T8 screw, and then we'll put the screw into this hole in this corner. Right, make sure that you're pushing the ports against the casing, and then I align the little screw hole down here to make sure it's centered, but you do want to push the top part as close as you can to the outer casing here. Okay, so we got that. All right, so now next we're gonna take the motherboard. Again, make sure you're grounded so you don't shock the board with static. Okay, we'll take this rubber piece here, put this back on. There's little flaps, so you have to make it go around this piece, just like this. Okay. All right, just like that. If you want to make it easier, you can reattach the fan connector and the one screw here so that the fan doesn't move around. You don't need to do that, but it can help make it a little bit easier. I'm not going to do that, but just saying in case you wanted to try it that way. Okay, so reconnecting the fans cable. All right, so like I was saying, the hardest part is just making sure all these cables stay on top when you put the board back in. We do have to put this side back in first, and then you line up the headphone jack, this circle piece, to go into the hole on the side here. Okay, so just make sure the keyboard and the trackpad cables, and then the microphone cable here, the LCD cable, and also the keyboard backlight cable, as well as the cable down here go on top of the motherboard, okay? Just like that. Slowly drop it in. You do have to kind of lift it at an angle. Be careful with the fan because it is detached, and also don't forget about this cable, the iSight camera cable, okay? This rubber piece you could always adjust later, so if it comes out, don't worry. All right, so we are going to have to lift this whole piece up again. I'll use the heatsink, it's a little bit easier. All right. And then you have to get the headphone jack lined up first, okay? That's the most important part. And also, just like the other side, make sure these metal pieces go underneath the aluminum housing. So sometimes you have to bend it down. So just push those little pieces down so that they go underneath. And then if you have to, you can also lift the board up more. And then just make sure that the headphone jack here lines up with the hole, okay? After you do that, you can pull all the other cables out because they're most likely going to fall back underneath the board. All right, just like that. Get this cable out. Come on. Make sure it's not, be careful when yanking up the cables. You don't want to use too much force and then damage something. Okay, so this cable, or this rubber piece, it has these little extended pieces. Make sure it goes into the slots of the fan there. Okay. Right, just like that. Okay, and now we can start reconnecting things. I'll reconnect the microphone here. Just like that. Push that down. We'll reconnect the LCD cable. So that one I use the metal little latch to hold it. Get it lined up, and then you can use that to pull it in place. Put the latch down. Make sure the motherboard stays against the edge here. Okay, then you got the keyboard backlight connector here. You do have to kind of push it back a tiny bit to get it to go in place, and then push it down on top. There we go. We got the keyboard connector. Reconnect that one. Oh, make sure that the latches are up. I pushed them down earlier, so okay. And be careful not to bend the keyboard connector. Right, there we go. Latch it down. Same thing with the trackpad connector. Make sure the latch is up. Push the connector in. Make sure it goes in straight, not crooked. There we go. Just like that. Push the latch down. All right, we can plug this cable back in. This is from the HDMI, USB, and SD card slot. Just like that. Plug that in. Right, we can plug back in the iSight camera cable connector. Just like this. I like to rock it in with my fingernails like on the edges, left, right, until it's seated in properly. Okay. Get this. Okay. Oops. I lost the, oh. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we can start putting back other components. So we can put the wireless card back in, just like this. If you want, you can put back the screws for the boards first so they don't move around. The wireless card you put like this, and then you squeeze the connector with the wireless card like that. Okay, I'm gonna put the wireless card, oops, I need to switch back to the T5 screwdriver. All right, and then we'll put this screw in first. Okay, so make sure this board is flush, otherwise your HDMI port and USB ports won't work properly. Okay, and then let's see, we're gonna start putting back screws here. So we got the small PH0 screw for the heatsink up in this corner here. Okay, make sure you got everything lined up before you put in this screw. Okay, I like to kind of pull the board over to the side to keep it aligned, and then you can tighten that down. All right, so we won't need that one anymore. We'll switch back to the T5. We'll start putting back these screws. So for the fan, I like to put them loosely first, so that way to make sure I can line it up So I'm going to put this board screw as well. Okay, make sure it's lined up as well. Tighten it down. Alright, so the fan screws, as I was saying, I like to put them in loosely so that way I can kind of move it around and adjust it. Okay, but I'm just going from left to right, putting in all the screws right now. Alright, so we'll get the other fan screw here. Alright, so now that we got all 3 fan screws in loosely, I pull the thing, like I squeeze it, so that way the fan gets pulled towards the edge of the MacBook. And then I tighten these down, okay? Just like that. Okay, and now we're going to put back all the rest of the board screws. Alright, I'm going to get the replacement speakers here. So these ones have like little labels on them. I'm going to put this speaker in. Again, make sure you put back the microphone cable. I already put that back. Right? This cable, you just line it up and push it back down. These speakers are actually really easy to replace. So if your speakers are having problems, you can easily take them back out. They're just held in with these 3 screws under the cover. You don't need to take out the battery or anything to replace these screws or to replace the speakers. So keep that in mind. If your speakers on, make sure you have this model, because some models, they will actually put the speaker underneath the logic board and then you have to take the whole board out, like how I just did it, to even change the speaker, which I think is ridiculous. I don't know why Apple did that, but maybe it added a little bit better sound quality. I don't know. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to just tighten down all the screws for the speakers here. Sorry, I know it's off camera, but... Alright, there we go. This piece I'm going to put there and then snap the connector back in place. Right, you can put the adhesive and stick it back on there. Okay, there we go. Then we can snap back on this connector. Hopefully this one will be okay. Again, this is the one I'm worried about because it looks like it got burnt or something. But line it up, push it down. Same thing with the other side. Right, then you can put these little brackets back on top. Okay. Just like that, tighten them down. Same thing with this bracket. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'll like loosely put the screw first. So that way I can make sure it's lined up with the second screw. Okay. And then tighten in the second screw. I also turn the screw backwards to feel it fall into place before I twist it. That way I avoid stripping the screws or the screw hole. Okay. Alright. Get back in all these screws. Oh, that's one thing. I need to put back the charge port before I connect the LCD cable. So let me put back this screw. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to take the LCD connector back out. Just flip that latch up, pull this back. We're going to put the charge port in. So I like to put that in place first, and then I can plug this in. Alright, and then you want to hold the charge port tight to the outer frame so that way you make sure it's flush. Okay, you can actually put the 2 screws in first, but put them loosely. Okay. Alright, and then you can push and hold the the MagSafe charge port to the outer edge of the case. and then tighten down the screws. Okay. Just like that. Put the LCD cable back in. All right. Put the latch down. SSD back in. Make sure you put it the right side up. All right. Just like that. Screw, put that screw in. You can put all these little rubber covers back on. Oh, we'll put this rubber cover back on. We'll get this little rubber piece and put it back on the corner there. There's like crumbs all on this stuff. Right, make sure to put back these two T8 screws. Whoops, need the T8 screwdriver back. So usually you'll tuck this, the iSight camera underneath this piece, the antenna cable, okay? It doesn't need to be, but that's how it is, so you can put it back the same way. All right, tighten the screw back down. Usually on these hinge screws, I like to use thread locker. Since I took those screws out, I'm going to add that just to be safe so they don't come loose on their own. Okay. Just like that. Put a tiny bit. Tighten it up. The other screw, same thing. Okay. Tighten that up. Alright, so we got this rubber piece that it's supposed to stick on here, so we'll just stick that back right there. They added this, I think, because the CPU, when it gets too hot and cold, it kind of pulls itself away from the board. So I think that's why they added those rubber pieces to help push it down. Alright, so we're going to reattach the wireless antennas. You just have to line them up, make sure it's completely aligned before pressing down. The way I do that is, what I do is I'll line it up and then I'll rub my fingernail over the top. If the connector stays in place and doesn't move around, I know it's lined up properly, and then I'll push it down. Okay, and we'll do that with all three. I have other videos showing this. If you want to see better, I'll do a close-up right now, but basically the same thing. Okay, so just line up the connector here. Right, make sure it's lined up. Right, and it doesn't move around when I move my nail on top, so I know it's good. Okay, same thing with this one. Some people ask why I don't use like little pry tools and stuff. This is a lot more nimble. It's a lot easier. Oops, sorry, I was off camera, but put all of these. Someone was saying, oh, it's not professional. Well, I don't care if it's not professional. I get the job done. That's what's important. Okay, so we got that. We'll get the battery. Okay, professional doesn't always mean a good job. So we'll get this, make sure it's taped in place. So this helps hold the battery packs together. So you don't want to peel that top layer off, but you do want to peel this bottom layer off. This has the adhesive on it. Okay. All right. So the plastic on top helps you line it up to drop it in place. So because I put the speakers first, I have to like hold it at an angle like this to get it to tuck underneath. And then these rubber pieces here, I need to have them go up on top of here. So it's a little bit tricky this way. To make it easier, you can just take the speakers out. I'll just do one side first like this usually. Okay. If it's too tough, I might end up just taking out the speaker, but it looks like it's going okay. So do the same thing with this. All right, you also have to clear that little silver piece there. All right, and then you can just pull it in place and drop it in like this. There we go. Okay. All right, got it all lined up. There's also the little screw here that you want to put back. It's also a T5 screw. Okay. Am I mixing up my... Okay, here we go. Get the T5 screw. Put that in. Make sure you have it lined up right. There we go. Tighten it down. Battery pack, make sure it's all pressed in place. All right, just like that. Then you can peel off this clear plastic stuff. Just like that. Okay, so we got everything connected. 2 speakers, this. Got the fan, the eyesight camera. Let's push the tape adhesive back down. Okay, won't stick as well after you peeled it back up, but yeah, all right. Make sure to tuck this piece in. There we go. This rubber piece on top actually helps guide the air. And then, okay, you got the LCD, you got the keyboard backlight, you got the charge port, keyboard, trackpad, these 2 connectors, wireless antenna, wireless card, everything. Okay, looks good. So now we just got to reconnect this. So just line it up. Might be a little tricky with the new one. You might have to maneuver the wires. So just bend it around the way you need to. I like to start with one side first, and then after you get that, you can kind of push the whole thing down. There we go. It's not turning itself on, so that's good. Oh shoot, I need another charger to do this because my charger right now is... Oh, okay. Let me see if the battery, if this battery is charged, and then I can turn it on. I'll turn it on without the cover on. And if the battery has enough charge, sometimes it requires you to plug it in first, but let me see if it has enough charge that it will work without me doing that. Okay, let me move this around. Okay, let's push the power button. So the fan did start spinning, so it is good. It didn't turn itself on. So the speakers also sounded good. Oops, okay. So I'm gonna restart the computer, or shut down the computer now, and see if it turns itself back on. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, it's good. It's not turning itself back on. The computer did stay off. So I'm gonna hold the option key after I press the power button, and just boot to the regular boot options menu just to see. And then I'm gonna log in with my keyboard just to, or my hard drive just to test the keyboard. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Now we just close it up, put the cover back on, and put the rest of the screws. And yeah, that's all there is to this. Hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, please like and subscribe, help others find my videos. Thank you for watching. This battery is a little bit aligned, kind of funky, but yeah, it should be okay once we put the cover on. All right. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe, help others find my videos, and see you in the next one. Bye.